Hi, this is Jay Gill, and this presentation is about the Cloud Xpress product line, raising the bar for Metro Data Center Interconnect. First, an overview of the Infinera Cloud Xpress family. The first generation of Cloud Xpress products included 4 different models that all shared a common characteristic of 500 gigabits per second of capacity delivered as a super channel line output, and that means all 500 gigabits on a single fiber pair output from the device. The client ports varied by the different devices. You can see there's a mix of 10, 40, and 100 gigabit Ethernet clients, and we'll go into the specific models in a moment. The second generation of Cloud Xpress is known as Cloud Xpress 2, and it delivers 1.2 terabits per second on a super channel line output, and also supports 10, 40, and 100 gigabit Ethernet clients. Some of the common benefits of Cloud Xpress are shown on the bottom, including high density, low power, instant bandwidth for scalable capacity on demand, simple operations, automation features, and built-in security. And we'll touch on some of those in this presentation. Here's a little more detail on the Cloud Xpress family. You can see across the bottom the positioning and the interfaces supported by the different models. With the CX10 and CX40 being the first models introduced, they were optimized around 10 gigabit Ethernet and 40 gigabit Ethernet, respectively. Not long after they were introduced, the CX100 was introduced, and it supports 100 gigabit Ethernet as well as some amount of 10 gigabit Ethernet for those customers who want to mix and match. And the CX100 has been the most popular of the first generation products as more of these Cloud Xpress customers have moved towards needing 100 gigabit Ethernet interfaces, and so it's still widely deployed. The CX500F was introduced for more flexibility, both on the line side with flexible grid operation, as well as on the client side with more flexibility in the types of clients that could be supported, full range of 10, 40, and 100 gigabit Ethernet. As we got to the Cloud Xpress 2, it was really optimized around 100 gigabit Ethernet, and particularly the largest data center interconnect customers who needed to scale with all 100 gig E. But subsequently, we've added support for 40 gigabit Ethernet and 10 gigabit Ethernet as well. And while you can't use the full capacity of the box, if you use those interfaces, supporting some number of 10 and 40 gigabit Ethernet interfaces has proven to be very useful for customers who are moving towards 100 gig E but still have requirements for other lower speed clients. So those are the current products, all supported and shipping in the marketplace today. One of the highlights that many of our customers like about Cloud Xpress 2 is its simplicity in terms of deployment. And we like to talk about this in terms of something that we call plug-and-play capacity reach. So on the bottom axis, the x-axis, you see plug-and-play reach, and that refers to the ability to put in a Cloud Xpress box, attach it to the line fiber, and reach across a Metro Data Center Interconnect link with no external amplifier. And with Cloud Xpress and Cloud Xpress 2 having built-in amplification and a single super channel fiber output, we can get reach right out of the box of 130 to 150 kilometers with typical fiber. On the y-axis, plug-and-play capacity refers to how much capacity you need before you need to add an external mux. And here, because there's internally muxed channels resulting in a single super channel output in Cloud Xpress, we have a single 500 gigabit per second output in the original Cloud Xpress generation and a 1.2 terabit super channel output in the Cloud Xpress 2. And that's higher than the typical line output of a single 100 or 200 or even 400 gigabit transponder from competitive products, as shown on the chart. Also shown on the chart is direct detect, also referred to as PAM4, which is a 100 gigabit port, but with very limited reach. So the distinguishing factor there is that in many different applications of data center interconnect, where customers are just using single Cloud Express or even a few, they can plug in a Cloud Express box at each end of a DCI link, hook them up, and be done without any additional equipment or configuration required. And that's very attractive to some customers. That characteristic is represented on this slide as well, where in a typical DCI solution, the line modules may be 200 gig line modules, but as you need more than one of those and you need to multiplex them together, then you typically also need to put an amplifier in. And so you end up with a total solution configuration that's larger than just the transponder itself or the transponder unit itself. So this can mean that the actual DCI deployment is 3 or 4 or 5 RUs to get up to 1.2 terabits. Whereas with the Cloud Express 2 on the right side, again, it's just a single unit all-in-one with enough internal muxing and amplification to get you to 1.2 terabits and 130 kilometers with no external equipment. Another part of the ease of use and simplicity of Cloud Express is the turn-up in operation. Initially, we have deployed a lot of these boxes with simple CLI commands, and so it's fairly straightforward to log into the system, to assign an IP address and a system name, select a couple of line and client parameters, and basically be done very quickly. There's also the capability to duplicate those steps through SDN-based APIs, netconf being most commonly used, and they can be managed by Infinera's management system, DNA, as well. So we have clients who do all of the above, and the smaller clients tend to just use CLI configuration. Some customers who are familiar with Infinera products other than Cloud Express use DNA. And ICPs, Internet Content Providers, and hyperscale cloud service providers are more likely to be using the APIs such as netconf and others. So all of them work, and we continue to add functionality to integrate into all of our customers' preferred operating environments. There's also capability to manage a group of Cloud Expresses as a cluster. More often than not, each box is being managed independently, but the cluster capability is there. And we've also added zero-touch provisioning, which allows for a box to be installed and brought up without any of these steps at all. So we'll talk a little bit more about how that works. Now, as we look at another key feature of Cloud Express, which is shared by other Infinera products, it's instant bandwidth. And instant bandwidth allows for all the capacity of a product to be installed and available from day one, but then activated with software-based licensing as needed by the customer. So this fits in with our notion of having an infinite pool of intelligent bandwidth. Of course, it's not infinite, but it's extra bandwidth waiting to be activated exactly when needed. And in this case, we animate this to show slices of the box that are 200 gigs of capacity being added with a simple click of a mouse. The minimum capacity increments are 100 gig, but there's flexibility to license at 100 or 200 or other increments, depending upon how the commercial pricing works best for the customer. So again, with many of our customers who don't need the full capacity of 1.2 terabits in a Cloud Express 2, or even who don't need the full capacity of 500 gigabits in one of the first generation Cloud Express products, we're happy to sell them the box with an initial license of some fraction of that capacity, and then allow them to add licenses when needed. Turning to the automation and operations of Cloud Express, for a fairly simple product, which is just a muxponder taking Ethernet interfaces in and putting them out on a DWDM interface, there are actually quite a few features and functions needed by different customers. And we support these over a variety of open standard interfaces. So you can see some of the functions in the cloud, everything from configuration management including that zero-touch provisioning capability that we'll still talk about momentarily. Topology discovery using something called LLDP snooping, service provisioning, SDN-based control, authentication and key management for security purposes, telemetry, and traditional network management. All these functions demand certain types of interfaces, and many customers do these functions differently. So what that means is that Cloud Xpress has needed to support both legacy interfaces that are well known and have been in use for years, including SNMP, DHCP, syslog, and so forth, and more advanced interfaces that have been introduced recently and are increasing in favor, particularly among some of the more leading-edge network operators such as NetConf, Yang, OpenConfig, and gRPC. And we've added support for all of these based on customer demand and need to the point where we now have quite a rich set of APIs and automation capabilities. So this also allows us to play up the plug-and-play capabilities of the boxes. Now, I mentioned zero-touch provisioning, and just wanted to highlight the capabilities that we have built into Cloud Xpress. The idea of zero-touch provisioning is that the box doesn't have to be configured by somebody standing next to the box using a laptop, but it gets configured in an automated fashion, sort of from the cloud. So here we show Cloud Xpress and a data center network, data communications network used for management of network devices. And connected into that network is a DHCP server for address information and a ZTP server, which does the configuration of the box. So what happens in this case is the box is actually physically installed and powered on, and so there's got to be at least that one physical step. But as long as it doesn't have to be configured, you can have somebody do that step who's relatively less aware of the operation of the box or the configuration requirements, and just can handle the physical installation and the cabling. Then, once the box is connected to the data communications network, the rest of the process happens automatically. So the Cloud Xpress wakes up, queries the DHCP server, which sends it an IP address and also tells it where the ZTP server is. It then goes to the ZTP server and says, I need to find out what the latest software image is that I should be running, as well as my specific configuration file, feature licenses, any other information that's needed to run the box. And the ZTP server sends all that to the Cloud Xpress, which completes installation and then reboots typically, and so all those capabilities are now installed, and the box is ready to support services without any user-initiated provisioning steps. So from the point where it's cabled up and connected to the DCN until it's ready to go, it's all automated. And this has been important for a few of our key customers as they deploy Cloud Xpress in multiple network locations, and sometimes in locations that are hard to reach or to visit for their network engineers. And so they definitely appreciate the ability to get a network element up and running without actually having to send a really experienced network engineer to the site. Cloud Xpress also includes built-in encryption. This has been true since the CX100 was introduced, and now in the CX2 as well. We've built in line rate hardware-enabled encryption for very low latency, and made sure that we have a very good, complete solution that aligns to security best practices. So not only is the encryption very secure, but other elements of the solution are kind of state-of-the-art. X509 certificates are supported, public key infrastructure. This allows plugging into existing security and encryption management environments that people have. Key to the strength of the encryption is AES 256-bit keys, but also the key exchange protocol based upon 521-bit elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman keys back and forth between the boxes and assisted by a hardware random number generator. And then finally, the ability to rotate keys quickly, which means changing from one key to another without any hits on the line, thereby increasing security even further. So the bottom line is that the encryption solution that we've built into Cloud Xpress checks all the boxes of security experts at our customers, and this has become a key enabler of sales into certain large accounts as well. One thing to highlight about the encryption solution is that we first implemented encryption at layer 2 with MACsec. So that was introduced on the Cloud Xpress first generation, the CX100, and then also introduced in the Cloud Xpress 2. This was actually explicitly requested by some major cloud providers, and it's a very well-known, understood, standards-based solution. We've also added layer 1 encryption to complement MACsec, which has the rest of the solution identical in terms of security management and operations. It just does the encryption at a different layer of the stack, and that's built into Cloud Xpress too. So let's shift gears and talk about Cloud Xpress applications and success stories. I've already mentioned Cloud Xpress is targeted towards data center interconnect, but there are of course many different applications of data center interconnect. The ones that we tend to focus on are part of what we'd call the Metro Cloud ecosystem. Various different providers who are interconnecting their own data centers or connecting to others in the metro area. So you see on here the cloud service providers and content providers on the left and right. These tend to be some of the hyperscale providers who have the largest networks and the brand names that everybody recognizes. They have networks of their own, typically consisting of multiple data centers within a metro, and then repeating that in other metros. And then they connect to the rest of the world, including their customers, through Internet exchange points. The Internet exchange operators themselves, such as an Equinix or somebody like that, are typically operating multiple data centers within a metro area themselves. And even if one operator is not, there's a lot of interconnection between different operators of Internet exchange and carrier neutral sites. So interconnection between those is a key part of the ecosystem. Hanging off that ecosystem, we also have providers of software as a service and other sort of value-added services, and enterprises more and more are connecting directly into cloud providers and other services through the Internet exchange sites. All of them, of course, are serving end users who are reached through a variety of different traditional communication service providers, internet service providers, and others. So they're shown on the bottom there with a small cloud, but that's a big part of what every service provider is interested in, is connecting to those users. As you look at the current set of Cloud Xpress customers, we have customers across all of those different parts of the ecosystem. Some of them are not mentioned with specific names here because they prefer to remain anonymous. They haven't been willing to be used as a public reference. So this slide is used in conversations with customers or the public because they're interested in who our customers are. And so where there's a logo, we've gotten a public reference, and where there's not, we haven't. But you can see we've got internet content providers on the left and the right, some of them more cloud service oriented, some of them more content oriented. You can guess who's who. We have providers of other kinds of content, including streaming video, Netflix, streaming music, and gaming. We have many different internet exchange providers shown in the middle. Equinix, of course, is a world leader in internet exchange and carrier neutral facilities. D6, actually the largest volume provider of pure internet exchange services, based in Frankfurt but operating in many cities, and several others. We have some providers of software as a service, including Blackboard for educational software, health, storage, and financial software as a service providers, and then a whole bunch of different communication service providers who either reach end users directly or provide wholesale services to reach across different geographies. And some of them are actually providers of research and education networks, particularly the four shown on the right there, Géant and CINI, GAR, and A-Star. So Cloud Express has found acceptance in a lot of different market segments, and it's because those common characteristics that we talked about are attractive to many different kinds of customers. Let's talk about a few of the applications we just showed on the previous slides in a little more depth. So first, the application that we call Secure Metro Cloud Fabric. And this is a network of data centers within a metro area, within a single metro, all connected for one customer. So this applies to the largest hyperscale ICPs who often have multiple data centers within a metro that all need to be connected together with something of a partial mesh and connected into the internet exchange points for connection to end customers. And in many cases, those customers want every one of those DCI links to be secured with in-flight encryption. So that's what's shown with the lock in the middle. And then over on the right, what you see is a depiction of that same scenario of a metro mesh, metro cloud fabric, being replicated in multiple metro areas around the globe. Many of these ICPs are deploying to more and more metro areas to have local presence in them. And in some cases, they've got networks that span 20 or more local metro networks all interconnected together over their backbones. So this metro mesh or metro cloud fabric is replicated many times. And when you add up all those DCI links, that's a lot of DCI bandwidth consumed just for this application alone. We mentioned Netflix before as an example of a content delivery provider that's using Cloud Express. And what they use it for is connecting their streaming servers where the cached content is located within a metro area to the providers of internet service who serve their end customers. And so in many metro networks, they'll have 3 or 4 main providers of internet service that they need to connect with, and they use Cloud Express to connect with very high capacity and stream to all those partner customers, end customers. And you can see there's a quote here from the Netflix VP of Networks, Dave Temkin, that emphasizes the simplicity of Cloud Express 2 for their network. As they deploy and scale, they like the fact that it's very simple to make Cloud Express 2 work and have that kind of terabit scale very simply. We mentioned the internet exchange providers before and showed these logos, but just to emphasize a little bit more how they use Cloud Express. Like many Cloud Express customers, they love the simplicity of the plug-and-play Cloud Express experience, and they also are very big on the compact form factor, because many of these facilities, the internet exchange and carrier neutral facilities, are the most expensive places to locate equipment. So having a very small and compact footprint in these facilities is important to them. And many of them love the software-defined capacity, pay-as-you-grow model of instant bandwidth, because in many cases they don't need the full capacity of the box. Some of them are using the first-generation Cloud Express and it just need somewhere less than 500 gigabits capacity of that box, so they can scale up as needed with instant bandwidth. Others, such as D6, are using the CX2, and yet they still need less than 1.2 terabits in some facilities, and so instant bandwidth is a great model for them as well. So with that, we'll wrap up and just remind you of the Cloud Express family. We've got multiple models from both the first generation and the Cloud Express 2, and they share a number of differentiating characteristics as you see across the bottom. And as we've discussed, we talked about instant bandwidth as a pay-as-you-grow software licensed bandwidth model. We talked about simplicity of operation, which includes the plug-and-play capacity reach, as well as things like 1, 2, 3 CLI provisioning or zero-touch provisioning. We talked about all the automation protocols and capabilities that are built in, at least at a high level. and the security options on the box. So those are many of the things that our Cloud Express customers love about Cloud Express and why it's been so successful in the market today. Thanks very much.